Today on Cosmic Sponge, we have a real-life Scooby-Doo, near-death experiences while ghost hunting, premiums for monster insurance, and an introduction to mediums, the afterlife, and the in-between with author Wendy Fedan. All this and more, coming right up.
Welcome to Cosmic Sponge, the podcast where we talk about UFOs and other weird wonders in the world. I'm Stephen Hall.
And I'm Jimmy Coe.
Tonight we have a very special episode because we have a very special guest. Please welcome to the show author Wendy Fedan.
Yay! Glad to be here.
It's good to see you, Wendy.
Full disclosure here, we talked on the show a couple of weeks ago. Jimmy and I were going up to Cleveland to jam and record with a drummer friend of ours. While we were there, Wendy is actually this drummer's wife, and we started talking about paranormal. She has a pretty neat story she's going to share with everyone later. She's also an author, written several books now. How many books? 5, 6 books now?
No, it's more like probably 7 or 8 at this point, I think.
Okay. 7 or 8 books then.
You overachiever.
And the latest book, it's a fiction book, it's a novel, but it deals quite a bit with spirituality and mediums and the other side. Because of that, and because of her extraordinary experience, we asked Wendy if she'd like to be on the show, so she's on the show as a guest host tonight. So welcome.
So, this is awesome.
All right, now before we get started with anything, we have just a really important piece of business to take care of, and that is Jimmy, who won the Cosmic Sponge contest.
All I have is the email address, and I will just give the first part of it. S. Hoover.
S. Hoover
is the winner of the Cosmic Sponge contest. You will be receiving a Cosmic Sponge water bottle, a W.V. Cryptids book signed by Les Odell and the illustrator
Mark Randall.
A couple stickers also from W.V. Cryptids. There was the Bigfoot ornament, which was my favorite.
The Bigfoot Christmas ornament. S. Hoover, you are the winner of the Cosmic Sponge giveaway. We will be sending out an email and give you instructions, and we'll take it all from there. Thanks to everyone that entered the contest. We had a great turnout, and it's awesome to know we have so many listeners that took part in it. Hoping we can do another one of these in a few months, so stay tuned. Well, before we get started with the main topic, Jimmy claims to have some news items that he wants to share, as this will be going out on Halloween, October 31st. From what I understand, they're related to that. Maybe not. I don't know.
What do you mean claim? As if I don't come to the show with my stuff ready to go, ever. Yeah, my first news story is about a ghost-busting greyhound, like a modern-day Scooby-Doo.
Ruh-roh raggy.
Yeah.
Zoinks.
Nerd. All right. So he belongs to Allison Hammond and Dermot O'Leary. They have this greyhound that they adopted who goes out with them on ghost hunting missions. They said he's got like something 5 times better vision, 10,000 times better sense of smell, fantastic hearing, plus possibly a 6th sense because they have brainwaves similar to small children operating in the theta and alpha bandwidth. So just as small children are often reported as seeing strange things, dogs can probably do the same thing too. They were on the morning show and they had him on the show, and they're like, took him out on set to see if there were any paranormal stuff going on. And they said Bond, who's the name of the dog, like James Bond, did a quick ghost sweep of the studio before the interview. Allison said he was literally over there. He was staring at the kitchen. They have a little kitchen set up off to the side. But he wasn't looking at me. He was staring off to the left of me. And I was like, what is he looking at? Turning to her co-host, she declared, is there something in our kitchen? To which I replied, probably some steak.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't know about a ghost, but probably somebody just cooked up a sausage biscuit in the microwave. Just throwing that out there.
This is a gorgeous looking Doberman, and he's...
Wait a minute, I thought you said it was a greyhound.
Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, greyhound. They look the same to me. I mean, I don't know dogs. I don't. It's either a Newfie, a greyhound, a pug, or a Doberman. But anyway, he's a greyhound, and he's got a little harness on him, and his harness says "Spooky Doo."
Yeah, I guess copyright infringement with the whole Scooby-Doo thing.
Right. So I'm going to put this up on our website because it's just an awesome little story.
Awesome. Awesome. Great.
You have anything?
Not really.
You have no news stories? Well, then I have two others.
I can pull something off Facebook, but that's okay. I want to get to the interview with Wendy.
Yeah, same here. So I'm just going to do two quick ones that are sort of related. First of all, nobody really understands how dangerous ghost hunting can be. Well, this woman found out the hard way. She took a dramatic fall after crashing through a substation roof in a disused train station while hunting for ghosts. This 35-year-old was searching for signs of paranormal activity in the historic Buffalo Central Terminal, and she fell 15 to 20 feet.
Wow.
Was taken to a local hospital where she was treated for multiple injuries. The pair were exploring the halls and corridors of an allegedly haunted landmark building without permission, but no charges were filed. So this led me to think about something we had done earlier with insurance for UFO abductions, right? It's like, well, if they have it for that, they gotta have it for paranormal stuff, and would you believe it? Sure enough. Werewolves, vampires, and ghost insurance. If aliens don't scare you, there are other entities that might. Every creature has its own creepy mythical being, and that includes werewolves, vampires, and ghosts. And as they are the most popular, they have insurance policies connected to them. So in case you get injured or killed by paranormal activity, or if you're attacked by a vampire or a werewolf, you can collect some insurance money.
What kind of proof do they need that your accident or your injury or death was caused by a paranormal entity such as vampire?
I went looking, and I could not find any place that actually had policies printed out that you could see. I just have this little story here. So I assume that if you're attacked by a vampire, you have to have, pretty low blood count and some hole punctures in your neck. That'd probably be enough, I would think.
Sensitive to daylight.
Yeah.
Burn easily.
Right. Dislike of
I
garlic.
could almost be a vampire.
Yeah. Oh, you're a redhead. So anyway... And then you can also, if it's a werewolf, full moon, you change into a furry beast, a man-eating beast. And then that's probably enough proof.
I just think it would be very difficult to collect on that policy. So just saying.
Yeah, probably harder than collecting on the alien abduction, huh?
No, I think it would be next to impossible to collect on that one as well.
Well, well, if you get eaten also with the
don't forget, what we learned from the Heaven's Gate all had insurance for paranormal. So
that's true. So you could collect.
Yeah.
All right.
I never found out if they ever paid out or not, but I do know that the Heaven's Gate, like we'd covered in another podcast, had taken out all this insurance on themselves, similar type of insurance, and allegedly they were taken away after they all had the mass suicide taken away in a comet, Hale-Bopp comet, and going around the galaxy or something. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's how I don't want to go.
Let's get right to tonight's main topic, which is Wendy Fedan. Tell us a little bit about yourself as an author. What are some of the books you've written?
I'm a full-time freelance illustrator. I work at home. I actually love writing and illustrating my own books. I do a lot of children's books, picture books. Writing has always been a real passion of mine. Ever since I was a kid, I've been writing stories. But what's interesting is that I started out mostly writing true stories, memoir-type stories from my own life. It wasn't until I finally put out a trilogy of stories about my move from Canada to the United States called Wearing My Weird. And that's when I realized how to write fiction, which is kind of funny because I was writing about things that happened a long, long time ago that I can barely remember. I don't remember exactly what everyone said. I don't remember, exactly what happens to bring one part of the story to the other part of the story because it was such a long time ago. But what I do know is my characters. Which, the people from my life who are the characters. By going through that experience, I realized as long as I know my characters inside and out, I can write fiction as well. For the longest time, I was waiting for the right subject to come into my imagination, and finally, the novel series Somewhere in Between came into my head. I finally it all came together, and I just realized that I wanted to write about a 14-year-old boy who is cast into the afterlife because of a car accident. And this isn't a spoiler because it happens in chapter 1. And he basically, through this experience, he sees everything that we living human beings cannot see. He experiences all these things that are completely oblivious to the rest of us. And since he's a 14-year-old kid, he's extremely confused about what's going on with him, how to deal with this new reality that he's been forced into. And it's very frustrating to him that the only live person who he can communicate with is a girl who basically hates his guts, who is just happens to be someone that he teased when he was in school, and she is a psychic medium. I really had a lot of fun doing all kinds of research for this book. It's a topic that I'm very, very interested in anyway. Ghosts, demons, the afterlife in general, and spirituality, mediumship, psychic abilities, all those things just wrapped up into one big story. It's a lot of fun to write about, and I've fallen in love with my characters. I love them so much, and working on book number 3 pretty soon, so...
Yeah, so I started book 1, and I gotta say, it took guts to kill your character in the first sentence of the book. So your main character dead, first sentence. I'm like, well, I guess the story's over.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kept reading, and not to dox you or anything, but it takes place in Amherst, which is your stomping grounds right now. So,
exactly.
So write what you know, right? So you really know that area really well, and you bring it alive with really clearly. You know it really well. You're talking about individual places like I think it was the Walgreens or something down on the street corner, and trying to find the house. Oh, so there's a lot of things that are happening, but the characters too. You're bringing in people in your life into some of those characters, aren't you? Because your daughter and my daughter both share a love of Lindsay Starling, who's a violinist.
Okay. Yes. That's another fun thing. I really love. I have based some of my characters on people that I know, people that I'm close to, and the character Lizzie. She is loosely based. I've taken my daughter into that character a little bit because of her interests, and because once again, I know her, and I know her character. She's an introvert. She plays the violin. She's, her interests have moved on since then. But
in your books, do you have any two intrepid podcasters? One a soulless redhead, and the other a ruggedly handsome Brad Pitt knockoff?
Not yet. That might be in book 3.
I think it should be. Just don't kill him off in the first sentence.
Yeah,
the redhead you could kill off. That's all right. Well, no, he's the soul. He's not the soul of the. He obviously can't be the soul of the podcast, but he's the.
That's what's nice about my books. The characters are already dead, so
yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
Even if I kill them off, they still come back.
What was the name? What was the name you guys said just now? Lindsay, what?
Lizzie.
Lindsay Starling.
Oh, Lindsay Starling. Yeah.
Lindsay. Yeah.
The character's Dizzy Lizzie.
Who is Lindsay Starling?
She's a violinist actually that my daughter was really, really into at the time when I wrote the first book. She still likes Lindsay Starling, but now she's moved on to like other idols in the violin world, I guess. Lindsay Starling she's kind of like a pop artist / violinist.
What she does is she'll dress up, right? And she'll dress up like in costumes of popular video game characters and things like that, and then play songs that are either related to those video games or songs inspired by those video games or pop culture things that are going on at the time. She's pretty good. Did Rose ever get a chance to see her in concert?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I took her down to Columbus with her brother Jack, and we had a great time down there. It was a wonderful concert. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Zoe got to go in Pittsburgh, I think, with Elizabeth, and she loved it.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad she got to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so in preparation for this book with mediums, some spirituality, life after death, you did a lot of research. What is a medium, in case some of our listeners are not familiar with, what we're talking about?
Psychic mediums, I have a friend who actually happens to be a medium, and they basically communicate with the dead, and they each have, what's interesting about mediums is that they all have different abilities. It's like how I find this very interesting because I don't have that ability myself. But I'm an artist. Where you guys are musicians. You know how when you're an artistic type, you specialize in certain things. You have certain, like some person might be better at watercolors than I am. Some people might be better at doing landscapes than me. And when it comes to the world of mediums and psychics, they also have their specialties, where there are some mediums who can only see spirits that have crossed over, and that means that they've crossed into the light, the big light that happens when you die. The earthbound spirits are the ones who have not crossed into the light, and there are some mediums that can only see them and hear them. So it's very interesting. I really, I guess there's a lot of research I didn't have to do for the books because I've been interested in this stuff for so long, and have talked to so many people who claim to be mediums, and there are different. It's just very, very interesting to me how they each have their own specialties, and it really led me to explore and research even more just for fun, what it means, to cross over and what ghosts are. Ghosts are basically those people who have not crossed into the light. They're earthbound spirits, which just the whole subject fascinates me.
Yeah, so I was looking into this a little bit, and it looks like spiritualism's the basis of that's basically the religion or movement around mediums, right? Started like in the
I guess so.
Started like in the 1840s, ran to about the 1920s in its heyday. It still continues on even to this day. They still have churches sort of dedicated to it, more focused in the spiritual aspects of the movement, rather than in the early days, it was more on the showmanship and the sensationalism of it. But there were a lot of people who were into this during that time. People of the day like Marie Curie, Charles Dickens, Houdini, who was also a debunker, but not for the purposes of disparaging the spiritualist movement, but more to get rid of the hoaxsters and the frauds and the con men who were giving it a bad name. And then you even had Thomas Edison, who was trying to invent a phone that would communicate with the other side. So I was like, okay, you do that, buddy. You'd be making bank, man. Make Elon Musk look like a pauper. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Wasn't Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, wasn't he also
he was
involved in some way?
Yeah, he started up his own little group, and so he started up his group, and that's where he brought in people like Charles Dickens and other authors in his circle. I think he did that, in part, he was really drawn to it because he lost a son in the war, I think. And that's what really brought him to the spiritualist movement.
Was that Kipling, Rudyard Kipling? I know he lost a son in World War I.
No, that was Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, Kipling may have been involved. I know Yeats was. Is it Yeats or Yeats, the poet?
Yeah, I mean.
I don't know all those fancy people.
Potato.
Yeah, so I guess in those days, that's where they really formalized the process of a seance, where a medium would come in, and that would be the connection point with the other side. And then you'd hold a seance with a bunch of other people, and then you have to hold hands, sometimes with Smelly Earl off to your left, just so you could get the connection strong. And that's when a lot of hoaxsters would use tricks and stuff to fool the people at the thing. In some cases. In other cases, there were some pretty prominent people during that day. One guy in particular, I can't remember his name. But anyway, he was one that they can never disprove. And they had a lot of people scrutinize him during that time. And He was pretty impressive. I wish I could find his name.
There was a pair of sisters called the Bangs sisters. I know they were accused of being hoaxes and that sort of thing, and had been married a few times, married some prominent people. One of the sisters had married someone that was pretty wealthy because she said that the man's dead wife, said that they should get married. And Illinois actually passed a law in 1891. The Illinois Senate passed a bill prohibiting anyone from impersonating the spirits of the dead, commonly known as spirit medium seances, on the penalty of fine and imprisonment, just because there was so much,
bad actors in the movement.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's so many people, being taken advantage of and what have you. But there was definitely a lot of true believers. There's certainly some frauds as well. As far as modern day mediums, I mean, is it something, for instance, like your friend, is this something she does like for a living, or is it, how does she work in particular?
Her name's Kim McBride. She actually has a website and everything. She's written a couple books where she written with a friend of hers where they're communicating with spirits while they write the book. She's given me some readings. I've actually, many years ago, I took one of her courses actually because she needed some people to practice with. She was wanting to start this course on light working, which is actually something that I bring up in the book as well, since I learned so much about it from her, where it's an intuitive light working. And it's about using your intuition as a tool to just getting in touch with your intuition so you can connect with, I guess, the spirit world. I'm a very open-minded skeptic, I guess I would say. So I joined in because I was just very, very interested in what would happen. I was like, oh, who knows? I mean, I know I'm a pretty intuitive person, so I thought, but at that point, I'd never experienced anything, but I was very curious about it. And it was an interesting experience being there. There was this one woman who, I got to see firsthand this one woman who was a nurse, and she talked about her experiences where she had this ability and she couldn't turn it off at work. And basically she wanted Kim to help her to teach her to control it better and to turn it off more, which was interesting to me. The rest of us were there to try to turn it on, and she wanted to turn it off. So that's what's interesting to me, is there are people out there who have this natural ability, but it's a real nuisance for them. And you could, of course, I understand there is that question that people would have, well, maybe this person is suffering from some kind of psychosis, having hallucinations, that kind of thing. But it's interesting when you meet people firsthand who these experiences, and you're like, wow, this is very interesting to meet this person who is telling me this. They seem very level-headed, and it's not something that they really like to talk about because it sets them apart from everyone else. And, you don't want to necessarily tell everyone at work that you're seeing spirits everywhere. Especially when you're at a hospital, when you're a nurse. I'm sure that's a very, very difficult place to have that kind of situation. Yeah.
Right. It would seem to be, I would think. Right.
That is not where I'd want to work if I were a medium. It's like,
no,
the two places I cross off my list: hospitals and graveyards.
Yeah. And actually, one thing that's interesting: graveyards are actually not popular for ghosts. It's kind of and that's something that I was learning about when I was doing research for my book, is because ghosts, they need energy from people. So where you'll find the most ghosts are where there will be a lot of people. They don't really like to hang around other dead people. They're not. There are no living people in a graveyard, so there's nowhere for them to get energy from. So you'll find them in places like malls or amusement parks, big time amusement parks, because people are scared and thrilling themselves, all over the place. So lots and lots of energy going on there. And, that's where you'll find the most spirit activity.
Thanks
really.
a lot. Now I'm going to be afraid to go to the mall and to amusement
Yeah.
parks.
So what's it like for ghosts?
Yeah.
What's their experience? I guess mediums, do they communicate with them on like a one-on-one basis? And
That's my big, that's a big, I've done a lot of research with that kind of stuff too, where, there are people who have had conversations with people who have crossed over. I guess, this is where I start to question things, I guess, is because, the experience that they say that these people are having is very much like what we experience here on Earth. It's like a parallel universe kind of situation. And I guess that's where my mind kind of has a hard time wrapping around things, I guess, because we just have no idea what this other dimension could possibly be like. And I tend to wonder, if you're communicating with a single spirit, is it possible that that spirit is experiencing something that's, I don't know, like special only to them? Because you hear lots of different things. So that's where I start to wonder, about when I hear stories like that of people who have quote unquote crossed over. And that's what this lady Kim McBride that I'm friends with, she's writing these books, and it's just interesting to me to, I don't know, it makes me wonder, but it stretches my belief system, I guess, a lot when it comes to that.
I have a question. I have actually
Okay.
a question and probably some observations. But the first question is, okay, it might be just one question. So the first question and only question is, so I was reading that there are people who are natural mediums. And then I started thinking about it, said, well, they were really pretty clear that it's natural mediums, so there could be unnatural mediums. So is it something that you can learn, a skill? Is it sort of like, the kid in schools, like when you're in kindergarten, you get that one kid who can do like third grade math, and all the other kids are like eating the crowns. And the kids who are in the crowns, they can eventually get to the point where they can do third grade math. But that one kid, by the time you get to third grade, he's at college, though, he's doing calculus.
Yeah, that's a really great question. It's true. Yeah, there are those natural mediums, like this one woman that I've met a couple times. Her name is Marianne. They call her Marianne the Ghostbuster. She's definitely a natural medium. Like, her grandmother had the gift, and her grandmother basically brought her up to teach her about how to use her gift and how to control it, which was very, very helpful. Then there are those people like me who are interested in seeing, is it possible for me to develop this gift? I do know that I'm pretty strong when it comes to intuition. To me, that's the part of us that connects to that world and actually hears that dimension, I guess you would say, more clearly, is the intuitive part of your self.
Yeah,
and that's the part that can be exercised, not exercise as in exorcism, but exercise as in as in exercising your math abilities. That's what I was doing when I was joining that course with my friend Kim, and I had an interesting experience with that, because I was starting to be extremely doubtful that this was something that could be taught or learned. I was really having a lot of trouble with it, and since I come from a Christian background, I had a lot of baggage to deal with, because I was like, well, I still cling to my Christian beliefs, but I'm very open-minded. So I had a lot of baggage there. So Kim kept telling me, you've got to really try to clear yourself, and I didn't know really what that meant. So I thought, well, I just have to clear anything that comes into my mind. So I realized what I was doing was like, oh, okay, clear myself. What was that? Oh, shut up. I got to clear myself.
It's like meditating.
Exactly. Yeah, like meditating. And so I was like, well, I practiced on a coworker of mine, a fellow freelancer, and I was like, I need someone to, practice this thing on. I don't know if anything's going to happen, but can I practice on you? And she's like, okay, sure. She was interested too, curious. And so I sat with her for about like 20 minutes. And just out of the blue, for some reason, the name Beth like kind of like came through like I don't know, like a whisper through my brain or something. And I didn't know. I was like, okay, this is random and stupid. And I said it. I said the word Beth. I was like, okay, what? I'll say it, because Kim said, if you have anything come through your head, you got to say it. So I was like, okay, I'll say the word Beth, whatever. And, the lady that I was with, her name was Laura. I was like, okay, I don't know what this word Beth means. So I just kind of whispered in. Apparently she didn't hear me. So afterwards, I was like, well, sorry, thanks for your time, but I guess nothing really happened. I don't know what the word Beth was all about. And she said, what? What do you mean, Beth? And I said, yeah, didn't you hear me? The word Beth just came through, and I don't know what that was. And she said, my middle name is Elizabeth, and my mother used to call me Beth. And I got goosebumps like all over. I was like, whoa. So I was like, okay, that was interesting. So I do, from personal experience, I do believe that it can be taught, but it's probably takes a lot of focus and a lot of patience. And for me, I certainly had to do a lot of baggage clearing to kind of get through that, get over myself and get over my mind so that I could trust what was coming through a little bit more.
Could you give us an example of an experience you've had with mediums, or I think you said someone had given you a reading. Can you give us an example of something that convinced you that it's real? You're really communicating with the dead?
I'm having trouble thinking of which one to talk about. I think the one I'll talk about is the one, the very first reading that Kim gave me. I was blown away by, I guess I'll talk about that since I brought it up. The very
you don't
first,
have to talk about anything really personal or anything.
oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, I'll skip by there was one that was really intensely personal. I won't tell about that one, but it was interesting. My friend Kim, she didn't know anything about what I call my Nana and Soupy. They were my grandmother and my great grandmother. They lived together, mother and daughter, and I knew them as my Canadian grandparents, basically. They came through right away in the very first reading that Kim gave to me. What was interesting about it was that she described them. She said one is kind of kind of large and the other one is really small. And right away I was like, that's Nana and Soupy. They're like Laurel and Hardy. Basically, that's what they were like. We called them Laurel and Hardy. And the interesting thing is she said the little one, and she even described, the little one, she's real kind of spunky. And I was like, yes, she was. But she also said that the little one had an interesting accent and she couldn't place it. That was interesting to me because I never thought of my great grandmother having an accent because I was so used to her. But she did actually have a very thick Canadian accent. And since I was from Canada, I just didn't see anything weird about it. And it wasn't purely Canadian. It was kind of like, I don't know how to play it, but I totally understand what she meant. And then
yeah, I get you, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the best you could do?
Exactly. And then one thing that was absolutely wonderful was I waited a few months after my father passed away to do a reading with Kim, and just to see if he would come through. And I wasn't sure if it would happen. So as usual, my Nan and Soupy came first. He let them go through first, she said. She said. And then after they were done talking to me, I loved the way she described my dad brought tears to my eyes, because she said, okay, he's walking up and he's like rubbing his hands and just and or she said he's got this big grin on his face and he's rubbing his hands. And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my, it's just, it is exactly the kind of thing he would do. And once again, it's just the way she described those things, that just the little nuance that just said, it proved to me that it was him coming.
Right. It's just something that someone couldn't just guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And I could see him in my mind, just the way she described it. She didn't know him at all. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I know for me, I'm not sure I would actually want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, just me personally. I mean, I don't know.
I'm worried about what they see. It's like, they're not watching me pooping, are they? That's what I worry about. I worry about, where's my privacy? I mean, it's already the government's coming down on my privacy. Now I got to worry about ghosts watching me poop.
Well, I have a question, and maybe you can help answer this. So, one famous movie about mediums and someone who could see dead people or whatever is obviously the Sixth Sense. And in the movie, not really a spoiler alert, but it's about a little boy who can see dead people, and Bruce Willis is a child psychologist who talks to him. And one line that the little boy says in the movie is that some don't even know that they're dead. Is that true? Have you heard that? Or
Absolutely. That's a big problem with quote unquote earthbound spirits. Those are the people who usually, they die from violent deaths, sudden deaths, suicide, stuff like that, where it's not something that they expected and they don't realize what's happened to them. That's where there's some mediums who actually, like this lady, Marianne the Ghostbuster here in Cleveland, she has this ability that she'll actually like recreate psychically, I guess, the light so that they can move into the light so that they're not stuck in being an earthbound spirit anymore. Because it's when you're an earthbound spirit, I guess it really is almost like your own personal hell. Like it seems,
I know I had read once that earthbound spirits, I guess as you call them, will spend their time around their family or their loved ones, things like that. Have you heard anything like that? Is that your experience or what you've heard? Is that true?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons what happens with. That's the reason, and it's not too much of a spoiler with my book either, I guess, is because Max, the main character, the reason why he stays behind is because he's worried about his little sister who was also in the car accident, and he wants to stay there for her, to be a support for her. And that's pretty much from my experience as far as listening to all these things that mediums have said, where there are all kinds of reasons why a spirit will stay behind. And there are some spirits who attach themselves to physical objects as well. Like if you go to an antique store, there's probably going to be a couple spirits around. If you get something from a garage sale, you better be careful because there might be a spirit attached to it. You never know.
I'm going to haunt.
Kind of thing.
I'm going to haunt my Rickenbacker 4001.
Nick, you can have it.
Right.
He's already got his. So when I was reading about spiritualism, they were talking about the other side, the spirit realm. You sort of captured it in the way they described it. It is this place where you have a delineation between the light, where you pass on to a higher level, and then multiple levels below that. And I'll say levels in lieu of some other way to describe it. My understanding is it's not a static place. Spirits continue to evolve and grow in the afterlife, and some of them have the ability and the intent to communicate with the other side. Now, if this is true, then you have the possibility, because there's good and bad people in the world today, and there's good and bad people, I assume, in the spirit world. So my question is, because I was looking this up, now there's a really famous family called the Perrin family. Have you heard of them?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so...
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
Yeah, so the Perrin family is the basis for the Conjuring films. And Andrea is really the one who's told the stories. I think her younger sister, April, who's passed away now, also tells the story. But it starts with a medium coming to their house with their mother, and they're observing this. And her mother gets like thrown against the walls and stuff. Like this really traumatic experience for them as children. And that's really where it starts, and it follows them through the years. And I think she's written a couple of books. She's got volumes 1 and 2 out, getting ready to work on 3, House of Light and Darkness or something like that.
Yep, that's it. I have them too.
Oh, do you? So good. You're the perfect person to ask. So do I have to worry about evil spirits on the other side coming to this side giving me grief?
Oh, like just in general?
Yeah, just in general.
I guess it's just so random, I guess, really. It seems like her experience was like she just happened to live in a house that had this bad spirit attached to it, and but at the same time it seemed like I've read her book, and their first book I read, and it's just, and I've like listened to basically every interview that she's ever done on YouTube. I just swallowed them up like crazy. Just fascinated with what she had to say. She said the house was like a portal to another dimension, disguised as a farmhouse. Like she had so many strange experiences there. So it was much more than even just a bad spirit that was there. There was a lot of paranormal activity going on there. For some reason, her mother just felt drawn to this place. Like her mother was probably, I think her mother, after all these years, kind of discovered she probably had some kind of psychic abilities in a way. So that's why, without knowing it, she was psychically drawn to this property without knowing why. That was probably the big problem in the very beginning. She just didn't realize why she was drawn to this property until much later, when they realized, oh, this is like a hub of paranormal activity, and it just went crazy. And who knows? One thing I've also reading about, listening about, if you have one or more people in the same household with these natural abilities, and you can have these abilities and not know it. You can be kind of a magnet for these things. And so if you're experiencing weird stuff in your house, it's possible that one or more people in your house actually has abilities, basically. So it's kind of like a sign that you need to maybe, do some meditation or something, get in touch with your spiritual side, I guess, and be a little more aware, I guess, of your own, intuitive powers, I guess.
See, I think my magnetic poles are switched, and I repel them. We went down to the Trans-Allegheny Insane Asylum. It's been turned into this tour thing in West Virginia. It's huge. It's really creepy. Be great for a movie. So we're on the tour, and we get to the 4th floor, and she's describing some of the rooms and the occupants of them back in the day when it was open. And she said, that back there is Frank's room, and we've got a chair in the closet. That's his. Don't touch it, because he doesn't like it when you touch it. What do? That's the first room I go to, and I start touching the chair. Because, I want to see something. I paid good money. I want to see something. And
that's going to backfire on you someday,
I keep waiting for something to happen. That's why I say I'm unfortunate, because I got the magnet on the wrong pole.
Now The Conjuring, that movie, that was the one that had Ed and Lorraine Warren, right?
Yep.
Based on that I think on the podcast a week or two ago, I mistakenly said that it was Haunting in Connecticut or something like that. But anyway, that's the movie I was referring to, because later on they did Annabelle with the Warrens and all that. So that's an interesting story about the haunted doll.
Yeah. David Sandberg. Love that guy.
Yeah. I have another question about the other side or whatever. What about reincarnation? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's...
We lost Wendy again.
We lost her again.
I thought she was like thinking really hard.
Yeah. You know what? Now that I think about it, this could be Frank from the Trans-Allegheny Insane Asylum getting back at me.
Probably.
Come on, Frank, man.
Messing with his chair.
Mess with his chair. But when we were down there, also in the rooms, people would leave behind stuff for the. I was telling, hey, Wendy, she's back again. She got kicked off by Frank from the Trans-Allegheny Insane Asylum. So,
darn chair.
Daggone, I should have touched it. So in the rooms, they would leave. I was telling Steve, they would leave cigarettes and coins and packs of gum for the spirits to keep them chilled out. I thought that was neat. Is that something that you they discuss in the medium world? You can leave behind physical objects to appease them?
That's not something I know too much about, really. I know that people have done that, but it's not something I know too much about as far as, like, I guess if they know something about the ghost and they know there are certain triggers that the ghost might have, then or certain appeasements they know about the ghost, then they'll do that, I guess. But yeah, that's not something that I know too much about as far as what I've been involved with or learned about.
Yeah, it's the first time I'd ever seen anything. I'd read some stuff, but I never read anything about that. It's the first time I'd encountered that.
So anyway, back to my other question before you got
Steve.
disconnected. Reincarnation.
Yeah, that's right.
You hoping to live on, Steve?
Yeah, man. Why not?
I want to come back as a bear.
I like to think it's
Which, I mean, really, that could be a subject for a whole nother podcast. But I was just curious if any of your
can of worms. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, because there is that thought out there, that theory out there that it is possible for it's like a learning process for the spirit. Like, we keep coming back to Earth over and over again to learn a lesson, to teach ourselves, because in the spirit world there's only so much conflict, or maybe there isn't much conflict in the spirit world, and that's why we come down to Earth over and over again, because it's the conflict that we have as human beings that teach us to be better human beings and to grow spiritually. It's like this learning process, and that's the theory that's out there that about reincarnation, and like the purpose of it is to keep coming back so that we can learn to be wiser spiritually, I guess.
I know Jimmy's got a long way to go.
I want to come back as a bear. I'd probably come back as a koala bear.
And that's why, that interests me, because I've always felt like I'm an old soul. You'll meet certain people and you'll get that feeling about them that they're an old soul. Like, even like little kids that you meet, and they just seem so wise beyond their years. And you're like, how the heck?
Yeah, and there's these cases of really, really small children. I mean, there's been several books written about it. I watched a documentary about this one man's son. He wrote a book where, I mean, he's like 4 and 5 years old, and he knows all these details about
a pilot's life,
Navy pilots and World War II and all this kind of stuff, and went to meet a bunch of these men, and they were convinced. They were like, there's no way nobody could know some of these details that this child knows, this 4 or 5 year. I mean, it's pretty strange. And you hear about that, and then there's a phenomenon, where when they're really small, they'll just start talking about names and all these things. But then as they get up to about 6, 7 years old, it fades. Like their past life fades or whatever. And just real quick, now I'll have to verify with my wife if I'm remembering this story correctly, but she told me she had a friend, I think in high school, that came very close to drowning and was, I guess, unconscious for a while or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's what the situation was. But at any rate, whenever she was in that state, she later told her that she met 2 souls waiting to be born.
Wow.
And my wife's like, this girl would have never said anything like that. She was not that way. She wasn't into any paranormal talk like that. She never talked about anything like that. Pretty weird stuff, really.
Also, one more thing about reincarnation thing, and one thing that's also kind of interesting about this, the theory of reincarnation, is that you quite often end up with the same people in as different, like
right.
You're like in one life your son is your father or something, and another
I've heard that
life,
too. Sometimes,
Your
not always, but
friend is, yeah, it's or like you keep kind of somehow gravitating to the same people in your life in different lifetimes. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. One more question about the spirit world. Sometimes you hear on some of these ghost shows and real stories about ghosts and hauntings that there's these outsiders that I guess are not part of humanity. I suppose is that a thing? Is that like like I guess demons or evil
Pazuzu.
entities or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, the shadow people, those kind of, entities, like who are they, what are they, where do they come from, and what, it's like this interesting mystery. Like I've seen that show, oh, for crying out loud, The Dead Files. I love, there's that, okay. But anyway, it's an
Yeah.
interesting show where it's basically a psychic teamed up with a detective. And they both, basically the detective goes into the house and he like does all his interviewing and stuff with the people who are having these paranormal experiences in their home and problems. And then the psychic goes in separately on her own and does her walk through the house and all that. And sometimes she'll see the strangest things. Like she'll just basically unfiltered, she'll just spew out whatever it is that she sees. And sometimes it's something completely crazy sounding, like this spider-like weird thing coming out of the ceiling or whatever. And she talks about shadow people and how dangerous shadow people are. And oh my gosh, it makes me realize I haven't even told my ghost story yet.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
shortly.
But yeah, like she'll say that shadow people are these dangerous entities or something. And I don't know what she means by that, if that means that they're demons or what. And there are a lot of people who are into spirituality and metaphysical stuff who don't believe in demons and things like that. But since I come from a Christian background, it's like and because of certain experiences I've had in my life, I do believe, just for personal reasons, I believe in demons, and I believe that they exist, and that they have an equal force over our lives, just as angels do, unfortunately. So it's all about as far as how weak we happen to be at the time. Anyway.
Yeah, I definitely believed. I definitely believe in demons after my second grade teacher. Her name is Mrs. Smith. She was terrible. Terrible.
You can always count on Jimmy for the comic relief.
Did not like that woman.
I had a really bad second grade teacher too, Mrs. Bowling. And she was awful, man. She was like really old school. She did the dunce hat. She taped one kid's mouth shut.
Oh, that sounds like Mrs. Smith.
Gosh.
You name it, man. She terrorized the whole
I'm pretty
class.
sure Mrs. Smith played Pazuzu, the demon in The Exorcist.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
All right. Well, Wendy, there's no doubt we could chat about spiritualism, mediums, and all of this all night, but we will have to wrap it up pretty soon. But we do one thing on this show with every guest, and it's called the Cosmic Dozen, and it's 12 questions. Jimmy and I will take turns on it. We'll go back and forth on it. You game to go through these? Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask the very first question because I already know the answer to this. And question number 1 is: have you ever had an extraordinary encounter?
All right. And I'll try not to tell it I'll try to be quick with the story. So yes, after years and years and years, finally I had an extraordinary experience. I was always hoping, like, hey, will I ever see a ghost? Will I ever see a UFO? Anything like that? And finally, I think it was about a couple of years ago, maybe, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was awakened by this gentle little tap on my leg. I was lying on my side, facing the empty, dark room. I thought, okay, David's, my husband, he's waking me up, telling me that I've probably overslept again, and it's time to get the kids out of bed. But I realize it's still pitch dark in the room, it suddenly occurs to me, this is Friday night. Tomorrow's Saturday morning. So why would he be waking me up to tell me that the kids are, so then I think, okay, well, is something going on then? Why is he waking me up? Because I feel this, there's someone standing here beside me, beside the bed, looming over me. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then I realize, I just get this weird feeling, and I suddenly, I kind of look over to the side a little bit, and I realize David is still in the bed next to me, still lying in bed next to me. And so I'm like, okay, then who is this dark, shadowy figure standing over me, less than 2 feet away from me, beside me right now? Because I'm seeing this person here. Unfortunately, it's very dark in the room. I don't have my glasses on, so everything's really fuzzy, but there is clearly someone standing here. And my first thought was not that I'm seeing a ghost. My first thought is my worst fear has come true. Someone has come into my house and is about to do something terrible. Or who is this person who has come into my house? My children are at the other side of the hall, and what do I do? So I refuse to close my eyes. I'm scared out of my mind, but I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna close my eyes, because if this person leaves the room, I'm gonna go after them and stop them, because I don't want this person going after my kids. So I keep staring and staring. Those moments feel like forever, but I think in reality, it was probably it could have been like 20 to 30 seconds, which is a long time, staring at this person until it finally faded away. And I was like, okay, what the heck was that? Yeah. And unfortunately, that was it. I mean, it's not very.
Oh no, we lost her again. I tell you what, man, had that happened to me, there would be some holes in my wall. my clock would have been discharged. I'm just saying.
Right.
She's back. So have you done research to find out whether or not there's somebody?
Hold on. Let her finish your story.
Oh, I didn't know she wasn't done.
Oh, well, basically that's the end of the story. But the thing is, what's interesting is that, I mean, I have, ever since that happened, of course, my thought is need to try to debunk to keep my mind from just assuming it was a ghost. I ever since then, I open my eyes in the middle of the night. And the thing is, when you open your eyes in the middle of the night and the room is completely dark, you can see everything in the room. It's dark, but you do see the shapes and shadows of everything in your room. And I thought, well, was I actually staring at this piece of furniture that I thought was someone standing there? I'm like, no, I've never been able to duplicate whatever that was that happened. It wasn't something flung over the back of my chair. It wasn't, so, because it's one of those things, like, it's funny where seeing isn't always believing,
Right. For sure.
It really isn't. You even when you finally see something, you've tried to debunk it, and you try to think, well, did that really happen?
So you had this shadowy figure very close to the edge of your bed, just staring down at you, or
just
didn't really see any
there.
features or
Like,
anything. It was just a dark feature.
Yeah.
Now this happened, I think you told me, what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, about 2
in
years
your new
ago
house.
now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
A couple of weeks later, something else happened, right?
Yeah. Then my daughter, I was not going to tell that story to my kids. The last thing I needed was for them to have another excuse to call me in the middle of the night,
I have a bedtime story for you. Curl up, kids. You're going to love this one.
Well, Rose, my oldest, she was, this was 2 years ago, so I guess she was 14 at the time then. And she was at the top of our stairs, the second level of our house, looking down at the entranceway where first come in the house. Down at the base of the stairs, she she was freaking out because she said, "Is there someone downstairs?" She asked me, and I said, "No, I don't think so. No, we're all up here." And I think David was somewhere else at the time. And she said, I just saw a dark figure like walking across the hallway there, just down below." And I was like, "Are you sure it wasn't just the cat walking quickly or something?" She was like, "No, it was a person." And what was interesting is that what she described sounded like what I saw in the middle of the night. It was just just a dark figure walking past quickly. Neither of those things have happened since. She has since nicknamed. So whenever something weird happens to the house, after that happened, I did tell the kids about my story once they'd calmed down and everything, because she was pretty freaked out by what happened. And she's a pretty level-headed kid. You guys know her. And she doesn't like imagine stuff. And so, I was like, okay. And now she basically she is named our ghost Steve. So whenever something weird happens, like the lights flicker or whatever, that people typically blame on ghosts, she's like, "Oh, that's Steve."
Okay.
Steve, stop it.
I'm not sure if I should feel honored.
I know.
Now I have a bone to pick with you. I slept in your house. You did not warn me about this. There was no warning. There was no big sign that says "Beware of lurking ghost."
I guess it's just hard to be afraid of someone named Steve, I guess. Maybe that's why she named Steve.
I can see that.
It's a little less scary that way.
So have you done any research of your house to see whether the house was owned by Old Man Lurker? He used to just stand over people when they visit. Was it anything like that?
Actually, I have to admit I have not. Oh, I guess if there was more stuff going on, I would probably do some investigating. Yeah. But since that was the only thing that happened, nothing's happened since. We haven't had any quote unquote disturbances, really. We're not letting it, I've learned a lot about, how basically sometimes ghosts will do things just to upset you, to get your energy from you. The more upset you get, the more that fuels them, and the more activity you'll probably have too. I just like that we're being very lighthearted about it ever since the initial scare, and
just going.
And for all I know, who knows? Like, my hope, of course, is like maybe it's just who knows? Maybe it's my dad coming to say hi. I don't know.
No, I didn't think about that.
I was so frustrated. I was like, once I realized it wasn't a living person who had broken into my house, I was like, well, geez, if that was my dad visiting me, I wish I would have tried to talk to him. I was so frustrated after that. I was like, oh my gosh, will you come back? Give me another try.
Okay, so off to question number 2, because I don't know that I want to encourage any ghost to come back. Let's see.
Yeah.
Do you have any other paranormal or cryptid interest? Like Bigfoot or UFOs or UFOs?
Okay, yeah, UFOs. Yeah, I've mentioned those. I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, I've always been fascinated with just, E.T. was my favorite movie growing up. I watched it like 15 times or whatever, and
oh, wow.
Oh, maybe not that much, but we didn't have a VCR, so I couldn't go that crazy with it. But
it's a great film.
It's a great film. I love it. But I think that probably stemmed my interest in UFOs and extraterrestrial stuff. What I didn't realize, I guess my sister actually had an experience when she was a kid, and she probably told me, and I didn't believe her, because she used to tease me and trick me all the time growing up. So there are probably several stories she's told me that of her strange, experiences, and I just never believed her because I thought she was teasing me or something. Yeah, it's like, darn it, I wish I would have paid attention, because that's fascinating, But personally, I've never had an experience, but I love hearing stories from other people Like a friend of mine, he said he saw one. It's just like, okay, interesting.
That's why
Like
we
I
started
don't
this
know.
podcast.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
suppose.
exactly. I know, and it it really is like I'm thinking, I mean, they're definitely around. UFOs, they're definitely around. There are all these videos, but UFO unidentified. We have no idea what they are. We don't know where they came from. Maybe they're from another dimension. Who knows? It's just I think it's important that we pay attention, to these things, because who knows what we're ignoring. So yeah, UFOs.
Next question. If you see more than one Bigfoot creature, is it big feet, Bigfoots, or is it still just Bigfoot? As in, I saw two Bigfoot.
I I bet it's I'm caught between Bigfoots and Bigfoot. I'm thinking it's Bigfoots, maybe, because big feet, I guess, would be, feet.
Okay. There's no right
That's
answer or wrong answer on
never
any of
thought
this.
about that. That's a really cool question.
So you're going with Bigfoots or Bigfoot? Which one are you going? Bigfoots?
Okay, I gotta choose. I'll do big. Bigfoots.
There you go.
Okay.
That's the right answer.
No, that's no right or wrong answer, but we are doing a consensus here.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer, but that's the right answer. Ooh, this is a good one. If you could learn one government secret, just one, what would you learn? What would you ask?
Okay, I'd want to know what's really going on in Area 51. I know that's kind of a one that everyone wants to know, but
Yeah, but if you get the answer, then you've helped millions of people.
I want the magic key to open the door to Area 51 and get the golden tour, and unrestricted, and
A flight in the
with my luck,
saucers.
it'll probably be like there's nothing there. They abandoned it a long time ago, and they built a new one somewhere else.
Probably up in Canada.
Yeah.
We're talking about Americans would never trust the Canadians with that.
Yeah, because Canadians are so shifty-eyed and sneaky, huh?
You never know what those Canadians are doing up
No, the American government would never trust any other government. Period.
Especially Canada.
So out of control.
Least scary country on the planet. Nicest people on the planet. I don't trust them.
That's the thing, you think they're nice. It's all a plot.
They're playing the long game.
So, on the subject of UFOs, next question. Roswell, crashed saucer or a weather balloon?
I was actually listening to one of your podcasts earlier today about the weather balloon thing. So, yeah, I'm going with UFO.
Okay. Awesome.
Lovely. Perfect. What are your thoughts on cattle mutilations?
That's one I haven't put a lot of thought into. Yeah, I guess I don't know too much about the cattle mutilations. I mean, I know about them, but I don't know what the specifics are as far as how they were mutilated, like what the mutilations actually were. Now I've had time to think, so I'm thinking psycho person just messing around.
Okay.
Better answer than most.
What do you think is the true nature of Bigfoot?
That's one that I'm a skeptic when it comes to Bigfoot, I guess. It's kind of funny. I think it's interesting that we haven't seen any real evidence of Bigfoot other than what's interesting is like I feel like he's like the
Got all his tracks everywhere, man.
yeah, there are yeah.
Got some Patterson film, the Bigfoot going sideways and everything.
Well, is it yeah.
You also have Bigfoot costumes, and you got dudes with big feet sandals walking around in the forest.
Yeah. That's one I have trouble with. I guess, because it would be so easy just to say it's just this someone messing around in the woods with a big hairy costume,
Good
but
way to get shot around here, I can
yeah,
tell
that's
you.
the truth. That would be pretty stupid. It
Hey
would be
man, he's
pretty
running around this suit.
stupid.
I shot it.
Yeah.
Put
What do
on
you
this
expect?
bullseye T-shirt.
But yeah, I'm wondering when the first sighting was of Bigfoot. How long ago was that? I
Oh,
wonder.
we do a whole episode on that.
Yeah,
So
I should
in the
listen to.
1950s is when it. Well, I mean, there's always anytime you dig into a subject like this, you'll find other
Yeah.
sightings, older ones and things. But when it really kind of took off is when a newspaper in California started reporting on these large footprints being seen, and a few years after that, there's another rash of them. Next thing you know, there's sightings everywhere.
I
Yeah,
guess I've never thought much about Bigfoot because it's not a subject that's interested me as much as other things like ghosts. To me, are more interesting, and UFOs. People are abducted and stuff like that. But all Bigfoot does is just walk around the woods. I guess he doesn't interest me as much as the other paranormal entities out there.
yeah, fair enough.
I know I'll be burned at the stake for saying that, but
Not at all.
okay.
Okay. Which of the following people would you most trust to save us from an alien attack? Mr. Jeff Goldblum, Sigourney Weaver, Tom Cruise, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kurt Russell, or Danny DeVito?
Well, Danny DeVito is pretty tough. I shouldn't laugh at him. He's a pretty tough guy.
Yeah, did you see him in Get Shorty?
Oh. Yeah, he can be pretty scary if he wants to be, I saw him in Taxi.
He played the Penguin in Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
He had a bird army.
Oh, man. Wow, there are too many choices there.
So,
maybe... I love Sigourney Weaver. I'm a big Alien movie fan. I love the Alien movies.
She's got street cred.
Yeah. She's got experience, Maybe I'll go with her just for I don't know.
Recognize the women.
Yeah. Well, not to be a feminist or anything.
But come on, all the other aliens from all those other movies, the only one that comes close to that is maybe The Thing, from Kurt Russell with The Thing.
Yeah, Kurt Russell's pretty awesome.
But I mean, as far as monsters,
enough alien movies, man.
Those aliens in the alien movies, those are terrifying.
Yeah, I got acid for blood. I mean, come on.
Right. I mean, you don't get any scarier than that.
I'd like to see Danny DeVito in an alien movie. That would be interesting.
I'd watch it.
That would be pretty awesome.
Yes, it would.
Jimmy, you should reach out to Hollywood. Hit them up.
They're not taking my calls. I don't know why.
Next question. Do you think the government is hiding the truth about UFOs and aliens from us, from the general public?
I would not doubt at all that they are. I don't see why they would not keep everything, keep things a secret. I mean, they're already releasing, all this information about you. They're releasing little bits at a time. Who knows what else is still there? And I don't think we'll ever get the real truth from them. If they do have more answers. I don't think we'll get it from them. I really do think we'll get it from the private sector, the people who are doing all these investigations now, and just I feel like scientists need to be a little more open-minded to the whole metaphysical thing, because they think it's like so separate from what they're doing, and I don't know. It does interest me, if UFOs are actually from another dimension or whatever, or I don't. It makes me think what we could possibly. I mean, how much could we actually learn? I mean, how much of our own technology is so not needed, if we could open our minds to other ways of transportation, whatever. I don't know.
So that's a yes? You think the
Yes.
government's not?
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm so long-winded.
I'm just, yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Everybody's
Sorry about
like,
that.
everybody's like, it's so amazing what we could possibly learn from them. And all I can think of is, I think they're just marinating us in oxygen for the final meal. Next question. Which is most likely? UFOs, Bigfoot, goat men, psychics, or intelligent big mushrooms? Like the Armoraria astoya, also known as the humongous fungus, found out west.
Hilarious. I love that humongous fungus.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think you probably know my answer, psychics. Yeah. Since I know a couple, like I don't believe they're all, there are definitely fakes out there, and there are people who probably believe that they're for real, but they're not, but yeah.
Yeah, the mushroom gets no love.
There are definitely some real ones out there. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So here's the next question. It's another alien question. Do you think that the occupants of the UFOs or the flying saucers, the aliens, do you think they're friendly to humanity or hostile or indifferent?
Well, if they were indifferent, they wouldn't be coming here, I'm guessing. So, and if they were hostile, they probably would have done something by now. I know there's the whole alien abduction thing, but I think they're curious, actually. I think that's what they are.
Okay.
They're probably curious, and
Are they curious in a friendly way or a hostile way?
yeah, I know. Like when you hear about these alien abduction stories, it's like some of them sound pretty hostile. Yeah, I think friendly, curious for the most part. I'm being optimistic.
Could be both.
Last question coming up.
Oh, I'm going to go with, if you were abducted by aliens, what would you do? Would you tell anybody while you were being abducted? Would you do anything interesting or unusual?
Yeah. But first I'd freak out. Yeah. And I think, yeah, I would tell only certain people that I know could handle it, which are very few people probably in my circle of friends who wouldn't think I was completely crazy. I could probably tell my sister, since she said she had a UFO experience, not an abduction experience, but I might be able to talk to her probably. But yeah, I don't think I'd be able to keep it to myself. But I don't think I would come out of the closet either and announce to the world, look, I've been abducted by aliens. I don't, because yeah. For one, I don't think David would believe it, actually, even.
I think your instincts are very strong there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Wendy, that wraps up the Cosmic Dozen. Thank you so much for taking part in that. And also, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. We're going to just have to wrap it up here. We could definitely chat all night. It's been an absolute blast having you on the show. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Fun. Thank you so much, guys. This has been I've really enjoyed this. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again.
I love that.
Okay. Yeah, especially, I didn't know. I mean, I knew you'd researched, spiritualism and the mediums and everything. And that is a fascinating topic and subject. I want to revisit that sometime. So we'll definitely keep you in mind for that. Like I said, everyone, I guess that kind of wraps up tonight's show. I'd like to remind everyone to please rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps other people find the show. Please visit our webpage. It's cosmicsponge.com. There you can find coffee cup icon in the upper right-hand corner called Buy Me a Coffee. Click on that. There's ways to support the show there. Also, we have the web store with a lot of new items there. Don't forget to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages. We try to update those pretty often, daily. Well, Instagram, kind of.
Instagram's falling to the wayside.
Depends on how busy Jimmy is. So.
Very busy
but
right
they're
now.
Funny. So you can also find us on YouTube as well to hear these same podcasts if you like listening that way. If you'd like to reach out to the show, it's firstcontact@cosmicsponge.com. Reach out to us with a comment, correction, story suggestion, and especially if you have an extraordinary story similar to maybe what Wendy had tonight, reach out to us. We'd love to share it with the listeners on the show. Jimmy, have I left anything out?
Nope. Other than Wendy's story was pretty creepy.
Yeah, that's true. But first of all, Wendy, how can people reach you specifically to find your books and any of the other work that you do?
Great. Well, I'll send you a link if you could put it in your description or something.
Oh, definitely.
But the website for my books is cawbooks.weebly.com. And that's where you can find all my books and the Somewhere in Between series as well.
You can also find them on Amazon, right?
Oh, yes, they're on Amazon.
Also, Wendy, if anybody wants to reach out to you, do you have like a email address or anything like that, or contact information?
Absolutely. My email address is wfedan, that's WF as in Frank, EDAN as in Nancy, at earthlink.net.
All right, great, fantastic. Well, once again, thanks for coming on the show. I think that's going to wrap everything up here. This is Stephen Hawk signing out, and I'll see you next week.
Jimmy Coe, keep your eyes to the skies and your feet on the ground. Catch you next week.
Say bye, Wendy.
Bye-bye. Bye, Wendy.
Be careful with that crystal ball. That Ouija board.
Yeah.
All right, then.
I need to get a Ouija board. Let me start asking questions. Who stole my Batman toy when I was 7? I want to know. Was it Kevin? I know it was Kevin.
It's probably Clint.
Probably Clint. I know it's somebody with a K on a name.
Yeah. All right, then. That's it.
All right. Later. That's all for this week's episode of Cosmic Sponge. Please don't forget to rate and review us wherever you listen. It helps others find the show. If you have any questions or have a story you'd like to share, you can contact us using our email account, firstcontact@cosmicsponge.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.